All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Here's Johnny.
Vanity. Definitely my favorite sin.
I am the devil, and I am here to do the devil's work.
The power of Christ compels you.
This is my boomstick.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Good evening, and welcome to Shiver, a horror movie podcast. We are your hosts.
I'm Daniel DeBona.
And I'm David Ulloa. And after another extended hiatus,
Life be lifin'.
Yeah. And you know, well, yes, life be lifin'. I was hoping you knew. I didn't know. I said, well, you know, and hoping you had the answer.
I got nothing. My brain is mostly mashed potatoes at this point right now. As many of you guys know, Dave and I are both teachers, and August is just a gauntlet of nonstop, just wading through paperwork and bullshit, and then the kids come, and you're just it's overstimulation, it's everything. So I'm glad to be doing this. I'm glad that we are back. We've got some fantastic stuff in store. Right before we went on our break, we started to talk about how we were going to be doing movies that were new to both of us, and we got a killer way to start it this week.
I think so, because we did Troma Summer, and I'm so glad that we did that. And we kind of stayed in that kind of throwbacky era, but there's so much good stuff that has just hit streaming services in the last couple of weeks. And that's kind of what prompted this. And what better place to start than what I think is the most talked about horror movie of the year. Now, we're only in September, and there's a couple of movies that have just come out that a lot of people are talking about. But the buzz that surrounded Sinners when it came out, and I think that still surrounds Sinners, I think is, I don't want to say unique, because there's been that sort of like elevated horror that we've seen that has made it to the mainstream, but it's rarely seen.
Right.
So in a section that we're going to call Deep South Heat, Daniel, as a Southern boy yourself, how do you feel about this movie?
This movie took me through so many emotions. Just so much was happening inside of me in this movie while so much was happening on the screen. While I hate that we had to keep delaying, I'm glad that I've had some time to sit on this, because this movie was intense. It was emotional. It was beautiful. It was scary as shit. It was cultural. It was political. It did so many things that we've come to expect from a Coogler movie. We have come to expect that if Coogler is taking the time to film a movie, that he is going to absolutely berate you with everything he can think of that he can fit into this. He is going to find a way to make everything thematic. He's going to find a way to, if it's supposed to be, you look at Black Panther, everything is top-notch action. You look at Fruitvale Station, everything is top-notch drama. This is a guy who, when he does something, he goes all out, and Sinners was absolutely no exception. From the time this thing starts playing, I immediately, we always talk about the best time to watch like certain movies, and we always kind of go back to the fact that it always feels right to start the summer with Texas Chainsaw, because when it starts rolling, you can feel how oppressive the heat is. The very beginning of this movie immediately sets the tension, and then you feel you feel how oppressive this heat is, which then the oppressive heat becomes a metaphor for so many other things in this movie. Mm-hmm. This is one of those movies where I feel like I've seen it twice now since we've gotten ready to do this. And I'm excited to watch it 3 and 4 times because I feel like there's always going to be another nugget that I'm going to pluck out. I was just absolutely amazed at what this movie did, both on screen, reading just kind of the everything that people were saying about it when it was in theaters, how much it did for the genre, how much it's just doing for lore and for storytelling. This movie, I mean, it did everything. It was like again, not bearing the lead on this one. This movie just it blew me away. I was absolutely floored at everything that this movie presented, and every time I kind of thought I had a feel for it, something weird would happen, and it kept me just uncomfortable enough that I never really settled in. And I mean that in the best possible way. Mm-hmm. I am so happy that we finally got to this and we're watching it now.
I feel the same way. And I had a suspicion that I would love this movie from the moment I heard about it. Number one, because it's Coogler. And I've yet to be let down by Coogler.
Correct.
But number two, once I heard of the concept of this thing, I was like, man, you're doing a period piece. It's in the South, and you got vampires. What else do you need? I mean, you've got this is your movie to lose.
Yeah, exactly. He was playing with house money.
Yeah. He really was. With half that premise,
yeah,
could have made a movie that was almost this good. So I regrettably didn't get to see this in theaters. I really wanted to see it in IMAX. And my summer was just impossible to get it to work. But I set aside some time to watch this. Steph and I watched this together. And I barely said a word the entire time. I was just absolutely gobsmacked. This was a feat of filmmaking, and we will get to the filmmaking aspect of this. This was a feat of set design. This was a feat of music. This was an absolute triumph in the music department. I have so rarely been so deeply touched by a movie before. Because while this is so very obviously black coded, it doesn't remain in the arena of like, you cannot appreciate this unless you are black. Like that culture, unless it's yours, you can't really appreciate it. It never once ventured into that territory. The inclusion of these other minorities and playing fast and loose with what minority is was amazing. And I think that there is for Coogler to do that, because he very easily could have just made it about the black experience, but it wasn't about the black experience. It was about the black experience and so much more. And I think that made it universal, so that even a white dude who lives in the South can watch this and be like, oh, damn, there's something to this. What an absolutely, I'm just going to sit here and like gush over this movie for the next hour and a half. So it is perfect. It's absolutely perfect. So, take that for whatever it's worth. Please don't sign off, because, Danny and I are going to do this for at least another hour. But I speechless.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So let's get into it. I mean, because the story is the movie. There were plenty of times where the story is circumstance. It just happens to be there. But this movie is the story. right? It is the characters, it is the story. So let's settle into where we're going to really get into this thing. So in a section that we're calling of worship and bloodshed, I mean, take us through what's great about the story of Sinners.
It starts with the title, right?
Correct.
Because I grew up in a devoutly Catholic home, and I don't think I could be any further away from the Catholic faith than I am today. And I remember the point where I started to draw away. And it had to do with the exact same thing that happens at the beginning of this movie. Right? He walks in, right? Our main character. Sam, right?
Sammy, yeah.
Sammy walks in to a church and he is ripped to shreds. Absolutely ripped to shreds. And the fact that no one seems to think that it's strange,
right,
talks to what the Black experience in the South was. You know, they're thinking this guy just narrowly escaped a lynch mob,
right?
And he walks in, his guitar is half beaten, and his father, the preacher, tells him, "Will you repent and turn away from your sinner ways?" And that's where the story picks up. And I was like, I want to know what's going to happen to this guy.
Yeah,
exactly. Is he going to repent? Is he going to leave his sinful ways behind? Because he's holding a guitar. So I already know where this story is going. It's that jazz life, right?
Right. It's that blues life.
It's that blues life. It's that jazz life. You know, for me, it was the rock and roll life. And I immediately was like, I'm in. There's almost nothing that can happen in this story that will have me check out, because I was told you shouldn't be going and playing that sort of music. And I was told that you shouldn't be growing your hair out like that. And that you shouldn't be watching movies like that, right? All of those things that brought you into that sinful way of life. And I feel closer to God, for whatever God there is today, than I did all those years ago. And it's because my belief is that God is inside of you. You are your own God. And that's exactly what this movie is figuring out, who are you within your own people, but even more so, who are you outside of your people? And that ability to reconcile your people and you is the aspect of this story that to me just absolutely shook me to my core, because the movie proceeds to show us the good, the bad, and the ugly of this blues life. The cousins, the twins, masterfully played by Michael B. Jordan, have just come in from Chicago. How they've got all this money, you don't really know, and we never really find out. And I love that. I love that there's still mystery there.
I have a very good theory. I have a very good theory. Okay, so they talk a lot about how they went to Chicago and they made their money, and they were, they were involved with, bootlegging and whatever was going on up there, right? The Al Capone era of Chicago. Mm-hmm. And one thing that kept striking me about this movie was that it wasn't just, there wasn't just the difference of Smoke wearing blue and Stack wearing red. They were also dressed very differently. So when you look into this era of bootlegging and organized crime in Chicago, what you run across is the fact that there were two different major nationalities that were running organized crime in Chicago at the time. There were the Italians and there were the Irish, and they both had their own thing going. I firmly believe that Smoke and Stack, while in Mississippi, were the Smokestack twins. Everybody knew there was two of them. I firmly believe that while they were in Chicago, they were running game on both the Irish and Italian as one dude. And that we had Smoke, who was spending his time with the Irish families. Hence, he's got, like the little Kangol hat, and he wears the tweed with the vest and everything like that. Like his is that more rough cut, organized crime look like of the Irish. And then you've got Stack, who's very clean. It's a silk suit. It's the fedora style hat. I have created my own headcanon where they were both working with the one, but neither of the other families or organized crime organizations knew that the other one had, for lack of a better term, a black guy. And so they were just operating as this one person who then kind of turned these two people against each other so that they could steal from these two organized crime families while also making them blame the other one. I think that they went to Chicago. Yeah. The Prestige, right? They went to Chicago and operated as one human being that was in two places at one time, and nobody but them ever knew.
I want in on this headcanon. I reject my reality and I substitute yours to misquote Mythbusters. I love that. I absolutely love that. And to me, that makes absolute sense. All of these elements come together. The dream of freedom is there throughout it all, right? Because whether it's freedom of religion or freedom of society, freedom of government, freedom of hatred, like whatever the thing that is oppressive in your life is, that's what this is. That's what this is doing here, because the inclusion of the Chinese family, the inclusion, the inclusion of the token white girl, right? All of these things come together to show us a community that is really strong, a community that helps each other and will do whatever is necessary to make sure that they don't forget to live their lives. And there's such a I'm looking for the right word for it, because what's coming to mind is native, right? Because like I think of like in the Caribbean, there was the Taino natives, right? And their beliefs were very much that we are connected in some sort of extra supernatural world to everything that came before and everything that comes after, which is also deeply African, right? Which is why I say it's a very native thing. It's not a very European thing. When you look at South American, Caribbean, North American, African native cultures, there's a lot of that there. This unifying, and you see it in Asia too. A lot of this connection to what came before and how that ties into what's coming after. When we finally get to the moment where everything is building towards this, which is the moment that Sammy finally plays, and all the lore that they've been building towards is put into action, that we see past, present, and future all coming into this speakeasy. I just got goosebumps again thinking about it. I think that this is in my top, if we were to do a Mount Rushmore of favorite movie scenes, not horror movies in general, that would be in my top 4 favorite scenes of all time. It was beautiful. It was masterful in the way that it was done. I sat there with goosebumps and cried. Like, it was just like a slow, steady stream of tears. Like, the beauty of all this music, this culture, this fashion, everything being celebrated in this one moment. It was, I think, one of the greatest feats of filmmaking ever. I've never seen anything like it before.
Yeah,
nothing ever like that.
That dance scene, like literally in my notes, I just wrote dance scene with 3 exclamation points. There was such a statement made in that about the power of music, which, you know, you have done it from all sides. You're a fan, you're a musician. You know, I'm mostly just a fan, but we both love music. I mean, basically, when we're texting, we're talking about the podcast and horror movies, or we're texting about music, right? Like that's what we do. Shout out Abbey Falls. We recently discovered them. Amazing post-hardcore band out there. If you're into that sort of thing, or I mean, metalcore, not post-hardcore, metalcore. Anyway, so that scene. You know, you talked earlier about the fact that so much about this movie is so powerful that while it is surface level, the Black experience, the Jim Crow experience, and it is Black storytelling. Like there's so much that you look at that scene and it's like, yeah, okay, but unless you're just a complete and total asshole who cannot see past the glimmer of what's just something shiny on the screen, then it's completely obvious that what he's doing is using this platform to talk about the power of music, and then he's telling it from his culture's perspective.
Right.
But you could take that scene and you could change the bands and the things that are happening, the types of music, the type of music that's playing. And that's a universal thing. Through history, music has been something that's united people and kept them together. And the idea that it's the one thing that's powerful enough, right, to punch through just this disc of time that we're on and make it all happen in one place. I was floored at how damn good that was. And it was beautiful, and it was amazing storytelling with this perfect little voiceover. But then even when there wasn't a voiceover, just the music shifting, and it goes all the way back to like tribal dance and the guy with the mask on. And then you've got the blues, and then you've got B-boys, and so much happened just right there that it sold a part of the story that was almost indescribable, but I'm going to do what I can to describe it. It sold a part of the story that music in general, but specifically to this era at this time, blues music was so powerful that it attracted vampires who they didn't just want blood. They wanted specifically this blood, because look at the power of that. And they saw the vision of the whole juke joint burning down, because the energy of this place was more than should exist in one locale on Earth, right? That can't just be happening at one place at one time. We're sold on the fact that the energy of Sammy's music is so great and so powerful that it has to span generations of musicians. It has to span generations of musicians in order for it to be fully experienced and encompassed. And the vampires were jealous of that. They wanted that. What did they have? They had some hymns. They had some goofy songs that had been around forever. They didn't have anything that had soul, which is what vampires don't have. They didn't have anything that had significance, that had meaning, that was anything other than you know, a couple of chords and some words that you memorized. So it not only tells this amazing story about the power of music, it's also where we start to get the subtext of cultural appropriation told in this story. We start to get the idea of a group of people being so jealous of how powerful and how wonderful something is that they will stop at nothing to make it theirs. If it means they've got to take the thing, if it means they've got to take the people who have the thing, it doesn't fucking matter, because they're going to take it because I am better than you. So why should you have access to something that I find worthy? And so we end up getting this amazing subtext of cultural appropriation in this, told through the power of music.
That was to me, the shift in this movie isn't that it's a like a Southern black drama that turns into a horror movie. Because I heard a lot of people liken this to oh my god, the Robert Rodriguez one, From Dusk Till Dawn.
Once Upon a Time, Mexico. Yes, Dusk Till
Dawn. Yeah. And I'm not saying that there aren't some similarities, because there are. Because this movie is also really funny, just like From Dusk Till Dawn is. And the action in this movie is top notch, just like From Dusk Till Dawn. However, From Dusk Till Dawn is a totally different kind of movie. That's the kind of movie you put on to sit back with a couple of brews and enjoy and not have to think very much.
Right.
This is a totally different thing. The shift for me in this movie happens with the arrival of the vampire at the KKK's doorstep. That's the shift that happens, because everything that we are seeing up until that point is all happening from within the minority community. And there's characters who are not black that appear, but these characters are minorities themselves. In some context, they're a minority, right? And I include Haley Steinfeld in there, because even within that community, she's not viewed as an outsider.
Right.
She is a part of that community. So when they arrive and they sing their goofy songs, right? That is the moment that, to me, everything shifts. And it's not because vampires have arrived, but it's because for a brief moment in time, we have been living in a heaven where we can do what we want when we want, and no one will say anything about it.
Right. For a very brief moment in time, the good guys won.
Yeah. And it felt nice.
Yeah.
And with the arrival of the vampires, we're reminded that the real world is not like that. The history of Black people, but also all minorities in America, is one of theft.
Correct.
And not and stealing from them. But Black people in America have had it so much worse than everyone else, because quite literally everything from them has been taken. So not just the home, right? Taken from their home. Once you're given freedom, right? Hard quotes on the freedom thing, right? Your music, not yours. We're going to take that, right? Your voice, not yours. We're going to take that, right? All these things are represented in those vampires, and we see in that moment they will not stop until they control absolutely everything in their lives.
Right.
That is the horror. It's like, I love the fangs. I love that they went old school, like just the most traditional vampire lore that you can have. And this is something that I love with Coogler. Coogler does this a lot, where he takes the traditional and includes the traditional specifically so that he can throw something else on its head and be like, I got you. You thought I had you with that, but I don't have you with that. What I have you with is this other fucking thing. So good luck figuring out what I'm going to do next.
Like, I can't put into words how cool it was that you're right. Gives them the super traditional things, right? So you're like, okay, so we're going like old school vampire stuff. So, and then it is a matter of minutes before a group of vampires is reciting the Lord's Prayer. And it's like, oh, okay, so the teeth super traditional, but these vampires will mark themselves with the sign of the cross. They'll recite the Lord's Prayer. They're singing hymns. Like, they're so we're not going, where it's like full-blown Christian aversion from the vampires, right? So you're right. He gives us the one really traditional thing, and then he's like, but also, fuck it. Like, this is how my vampires are, right? My vampires don't fear religion, right? They don't fear these things. They don't fear much of anything except the sun. Right. And that one group of American Indians, Native Americans that seemed to hunt them down. Right. Like, Reddick was definitely afraid of those guys.
Yeah.
But it was, the first time that happened, and I was like, wait a minute, is he? No, I know the words that are coming out of his mouth, but they shouldn't. Right. And you like I said, that thing where you're just, you get comfortable in something, and then you get uncomfortable. And again, you're like, well, shit, maybe I don't know anything, right? Maybe I have no idea what's happening or what these things really are. Like, we all knew they were vampires. Like, that was never hidden. But I still had that moment where I was like, but wait, are they vampires? Like, are they going to give us something else? Because one of the other things about this movie was, we got the hoodoo references, right? They're talking about hoodoo all the time, and we get Annie is like the medicine woman, and she's, everything she's talking about is hoodoo references. She always uses the word haint, which just that just Southern boy, like, creepy stuff just made my heart twitter, right? Like, the fact that she kept using the word haint and used it correctly every time. Like, that felt so good, because I love the word haint, because it's this all-encompassing word for anything, like malicious and supernatural. Like, a haint could be a zombie, a ghost, a vampire, whatever. Like, it's bad and it ain't of this world. It's a haint. And we're good with that, like, I love it. I love the word haint, and I love that it was used so masterfully in here. But you start to have that thing where it's like, is he going to, like, create something new? Is this going to be some sort of new monster? And I have so much faith in Ryan Coogler at this point, and I was so bought in the movie that I was okay with if he had just been like, no, these are called Shemel Ding Dongs. And I'd be like, fuck yeah, Shemel Ding Dongs. I'm in. Yes. Like, I was so, like, my buy-in for this movie by the point that Reddick shows up was at 100%, right? I'd been cranked to 11. The needle couldn't move anymore. Like you said, it happened so fast that I knew that nothing that happened in this movie was going to upset me. Like, it would have been emotionally devastating for me if this movie had shit the bed 2/3 of the way through.
Yeah.
Because I was so encompassed. I was so bought in. Like, there was, like you said, I said next to nothing. Like, there are movies that are half as long that have no story that I take more notes on because I'm just constantly jotting down jokes. That didn't happen, right? Like, I got a handful of things to try to make sure that I say, but looking away from the screen was damn near impossible.
Yeah. I listen, I think we have to move on from story, because we could probably sit here all night talking about the story. And in the end, I think that the story here is only as important as you, the audience member, make it.
Right.
And that, to be able to craft a story that is simple and intricate, with lots of complexities that sublimate to many different messages that all come down to one thing, and be able to say, it matters or it doesn't matter. That's an amazing, amazing feat of writing, which all goes back to Coogler. The guy's a fucking master, right? So because we have to, let's move on to our characters, right? I don't think there's a single person that we can say that was the weakest link.
Correct.
It's impossible because everyone is so damn good. But if you had to mention one person at the top, like this is the first one that comes to mind, who would it be?
All right. I'd like to take you on a journey, if you will. I'm going to take this one off the rails a little bit because as we set up our banners for this, right? Like what our categories were going to be, we set them all up. And then after we were already recording, I realized that there was one I kind of wish we'd added, but rather than add it, I think that it kind of fits in here. So I'm going to go outside the box here with the first character that I want to talk about, because this is something that happens occasionally. Something very similar happened in Alien. I want to talk about how the setting of this movie is a living, breathing character. I want to talk about the fact that setting this movie in the Mississippi Delta, it is teeming with life. It is something that is absolutely so vital to everything. But more importantly than that, this fucking sawmill ends up becoming this symbol and this alive thing of both trauma and victory, right? This is a sawmill that is in the Mississippi Delta that is now run down because we are in Jim Crow, but we are post-slavery, right? So the assumption is that if something like that is now run down and defunct in post-slavery South, then that is because when they lost their labor force, they lost their business. So we take this sawmill that we are now pretty safe to assume at one point was it was a killing floor for people who were being worked and beaten to death. And we take that and smoke and stack by it, and they turn it into a symbol of victory. They turn it into this idea of overcoming not just what they've had to go through in their lives, but what their ancestors had to go through to get them to the point that they could go to Chicago and run whatever game they ran to get rich in Chicago. They take it and they turn it into a juke joint, and they make it something for us by us. His words, obviously, I'm not one of the us.
Right.
Now, so you take that and you run with it, and you're like, okay, so this is amazing. Like they brought this sawmill to life. And then what do? You have white oppressors come in and once again turn it into a killing floor, because why should these colored people, for lack of anything better to say, have something? Why should they be allowed? It's just like with the music. But they create this atmosphere where, like we talked about, how the music had to span this generations for it to be fully encompassed. The juke joint becomes this thing that couldn't exist anywhere else at any other time. The juke joint that they create right there becomes this living, breathing thing that for one golden moment stands as a testament to what resilience can be, and the fact that trauma does not have to define who you are as a person. Your ancestry and what came before you does not have to determine your future. The juke joint and the sawmill themselves become something that is, it couldn't have survived more than one night. even if the vampires hadn't showed up, we know the KKK was coming the next day, right? That moment, it's a keystone in what was happening in this timeline, and it could not have been anywhere else. It had to happen then, and it had to happen at this old sawmill. It became something, like I said, we talked about with Alien, like how the Nostromo was its own thing, and it became a character. This juke joint was so vitally important to every single person in the movie that there's a fucking argument for the fact that this juke joint is the protagonist of this movie. There is an argument for the fact that the spot that they created, from the time it starts till the time it ends, everything that happens because of this juke joint. And while the story may be told from Smoke and Stack's perspective, the juke joint is the protagonist of this movie. It is the reason that it all happens. It is the reason that we're so engrossed with this. There's something absolutely beautiful and tragic about everything involved with this juke joint. And I have just had that thought banging around in my head for 3 goddamn weeks now. And I needed to get it out before it just exploded, because I have just been fascinated by the way that this sawmill became everything about this movie.
Well, and the fact that it was a sawmill, for me, was significant thematically. Like, you think of what a sawmill does. You put big wood in and little wood come out. Like, it absolutely decimates.
I'm sorry, this is a very serious thing, but I couldn't help it. Sometimes the 12-year-old creeps through, and big wood in, little wood out got me. All right, continue.
Big wood in, little wood out. That's what a sawmill does. It destroys. It completely decimates a thing until it's unrecognizable. And that's exactly what happens to everyone involved in the juke joint.
Yeah.
They go in expecting to have the night of their lives. They go in, and Smoke and Stack clearly have the idea that this is going to be a joint that's going to go longer than one night.
Right.
To them, this is the dream. This is they're talking about how long they can keep this open with the way things are. There's clearly financial analysis that's happening here. They want to make this thing last longer than whatever that is. And it's impossible because the South. Because of everything that the vampires represent. Absolutely, the sawmill is its own character. The way that it's lit ablaze, metaphorically, the same way that, like, our hearts are set ablaze. We are observing from the rafters of the sawmill.
Yes.
And it is such a great comparison to say the sawmill is like the Nostromo. It's perfect. Absolutely perfect. Thank you so much for bringing that up. I'm not going to go that deep. Because the first person that comes to mind is someone who we've actually spoken about on the show before. And it is Wunmi Musaku, who played Annie. She was in the movie His House.
Yes.
Which we did, I want to say it was 2 years ago now.
I don't even think it was that long ago. It was in a January. It was either this past January or last January.
So I remember it was in a January episode. So all I know is that she blew me away then, and she absolutely blew me away this time. Her spirituality really spoke to me. And I am not a spiritual person, but she reminded me so much of my great grandmother, who herself was Taino, and she had this, like, crazy what to me seemed at the time like a crazy system of belief and a way of describing the way everyone was connected that I didn't get when I was younger. And the older I get, the more I seem to understand. But also the less I believe in anything anymore.
Right.
You know, so it's kind of like this weird thing where I find it beautiful and I do feel connections with people. So maybe there is something to it. But at the same time, the skeptic in me just doesn't really, I can't commit to it. The way that she speaks, the way that she behaves, she is the calming force in here because she knows all of the deep horrors of the South. She knows all of the horrors of the old country. And yet she's the one who's most calm about everything. She's the one who knows exactly what to do. She's the one who the only person who can cool smoke. She's the only one. There's no one else. And the scene where she's first introduced sold it for me. He comes in and he's kneeling down at this grave and I'm like, oh man, there's some real trauma here. And he comes in and the way that they look at each other, there was no hatred there.
Right.
There was deep frustration. There was lots of anger. I couldn't find any hatred in anything she said to him. Only love. And that it was such a real thing for me. The way that like this man up and left you. He abandoned you in your time of need. You both lost this same child. And you know that you need him. It's such a debilitating feeling to be like, I know that I should kick you to the curb, but I can't because I need you. That dependence, it hurts, but it's beautiful. And
Yeah.
and I'm in no way advocating for someone to stay with an abuser. All right. I don't want that to be mistaken. All right. But what I am saying is that it's such a real thing to be able to look at someone who has hurt you and be like, God damn it, I love you. And I saw that in everything that she did. And again, that speaks to that sort of very spiritual mentality that she had, the way that she connected with everyone on every level. To me, this was the character that not necessarily I saw myself most in, but who I saw my culture and my people represented in this movie.
Yeah, there was something really special about Annie and the fact that they present this idea of hoodoo, which, you know, is one of very few, if any, you know, almost strictly American spiritualities, right? This was something that was developed by enslaved people because, you know, so much had been taken from them that they created their own thing. And there's a power to the way that she presents these things, you know, like, and what's really fascinating about any time that one of these things is approached, whether it be hoodoo or voodoo, these things are thrown around as punchlines so often that it's real easy to not show it any sort of reverence. Right. It's real easy to present it as a joke of a religion or a joke of spirituality, which, like I said, I don't think it actually counts as a religion, more so just a spiritual outlook on things. But the way that she handled herself while dealing with these things, even when, you know, like just smoke is just going in on her about, well, you know, then how come all of that couldn't save our baby? You know, you're still peddling this nonsense. He just goes in on just what seems to be everything she stands for. I mean, she's taking plantation money that's no good to her to help these kids out. This seems to be her entire thing, is that she's this root woman, right? Like this medicine woman. And there's so much reverence and respect to the way that she handles it and that she talks about it. It never felt goofy.
No.
Right. Like we talked about how much we love the serpent and the rainbow, but there were plenty of times where they're like, they've gone a little far with the voodoo stuff, and they're kind of getting weird with it. And it's becoming too much, right? Like it's not being revered anymore. The way that Annie carried herself throughout all of this, all of her knowledge seemed to come from a place where it had to be respected, or it should be respected, because she carried herself in such a way that you're right. She was the voice of reason. Why should we be listening to anybody else? Right? Like these guys, these guys out here trying to get laid. This one just wants to get drunk. Like, why would you listen to anybody but Annie?
Yeah.
And so there was a gravitas to the way that she played that role. And yeah, it was very, very good. So all right, so now that I've done my really weird one, let me get on. let me go to Jack O'Connell as Remick.
Oh yes.
Damn. Like, it's so the tropey vampire, right? Your Draculas, your Lestats. These are guys who ooze sexuality. These are guys who prey on the fact that humans want to be more powerful. They want to live forever. They want to be loved forever. They don't want to lose the things that they love. Again, Coogler takes that and turns it. Just absolutely gives it a 180. At no point, yes, Haley Steinfeld eventually, used her sexuality to make things happen. But when we're looking at Remick, the guy who puts all of this together, like the sire of this vampire clan that he's trying to create, he never once resulted to that. What did he do? He used music because he thought it was going to get through. When that didn't, he got real nasty with it, and he starts talking about Jim Crow laws. He starts appealing to the humanity of people as a bad thing. He doesn't take and turn it to where you just want to live a better life of being a human. He makes you realize that he views humanity as scum. And yet while he's saying it, you're like, as a human, maybe he's right. Like,
yeah,
you have this moment where you're just like, it's funny because the flip side of this coin is that Michael B. Jordan did this amazingly as Killmonger, right?
Yes, he did.
And so now you've got Michael B. Jordan on the other side of this as the guy who's listening to the villain monologue and having to fight the damn, maybe, like you're looking at this guy. He's covered in blood. He's eating people. His teeth are all sharp. He's obviously a denizen of the devil. And you're still staring at him going, this motherfucker's spitting though. Right? Like, it was the way that he played a vampire was simultaneously, we almost had a section that we named Same But Different. It was simultaneously exactly what you expect a vampire to be. Mm-hmm. And also like nothing that I could off the top of my head tell you I'd seen a vampire be. I loved the way that he could turn like that, just on a dime. Again, vampire stuff, right? What appeals to you? What do I got? That's not working. Well, you know what? Fuck you. You're going to listen to me and you're going to realize I'm right. And when it's over, I don't even have to fight you to bite your neck. You're going to let me do it.
Yeah.
Because that's who I am. And because I am so much better than you, then I'm going to be able to convince your little feeble brain of it. So let's get to popping with it. Let's go. And there was whereas gravitas was the word that I used for Annie, this unmitigated confidence that Remick carried himself with was unreal. This dude was the con man's con man. This guy is the original snake oil salesman. This is the guy that we create phrases like sell a ketchup popsicle to a woman in white gloves from. Because I have no doubt in my mind that most people are going to be swooned by this guy. It was unreal. And then that voice too, it couldn't be more different than the way Sammy was singing, but also just had its perfect place. Like Jack O'Connell was absolutely amazing in this role.
I don't know that I can think of anyone who could have done what he did the way he did it, because we've gotten various different kinds of vampires before, and to me this one was pretty unique. The idea that music was the thing that was going to make him attractive,
right?
Because obviously we see so many different kinds of attractive vampires, right? And this, like you say, this has always been part of the vampire lore going back to Dracula, right? Dracula doesn't work if women are not inherently attracted to him. Correct. Otherwise, he can't make those brides, you know.
Yeah.
If they keep swiping left on him, how is he gonna get close enough to even sink a fang in? You know, it's not gonna happen. So, this was, I think, a really unique take, and he had so much charisma, which of course is a vampire thing, but it was the song thing. Right? Because he learns from them. And it was the way that he was like the Borg queen, to take it back to like Star Trek, right? Every single person that came into his brood gave him something. And by the end of the movie, that he was scary when you first meet him. By the time the sun starts coming up at the end, he is absolutely terrifying. This has been, I can't say that it's my favorite vampire villain, because there's so many really, really great ones. But this has certainly been one of my favorite portrayals, because he almost doesn't lift a finger.
Right.
He does almost nothing the entire movie except sing.
Yeah, he broke more of a sweat in his dance circle with all of his new buddies than he did trying to get at the people.
It was I would have to think modeled after Charles Manson in some way.
Okay.
Where he
with the
had
music?
There was music, there was dance, there was this sort of bohemian quality there that that in itself is also attractive. So to me, it was part of the danger of him. I would love to have I think he introduced to us another aspect of this story that is largely undeveloped, and for good reason. You can't develop everything. I would love to see the Native American side
right
of this lore. I feel like with Sinners, and I am a huge advocate of making a great movie and then leaving it the fuck alone. Not everything needs a franchise. Not everything needs even a sequel.
Right. Not everything needs to be IP to make $1 billion.
No, absolutely not. And while I was watching this, I kept thinking of a fantastic DC comic series from many years ago called American Vampire.
Yes.
And to me, I have to imagine that Coogler, as a fan of comic books, or I have to imagine he's a fan of comics if he did, Black Panther, had to at least have been aware of American Vampire. But one of the thing that I loved most about American Vampire was how it explored vampire lore, specifically in America. And I would love to see Coogler's side of the Native American vampire lore. Because he was really scared for his life.
Yes.
When he stumbles upon their doorstep. I would love to see the story that happens before that.
And it's really interesting. It's kind of same wavelength thing that you mentioned, like a comic book, because that was my entire thing was, while I don't want to see another movie come out of this, I don't want this to be the Sinners franchise, a comic book. Scott Snyder wrote American Vampires, right? Like if Scott Snyder could get together with Coogler and give us a prequel, a prequel series where we get a couple issues about where Remick comes from, and then a couple issues about his, these Native Americans that are tracking him down, and how he fits into their lore. That could be brilliant. That could be amazing. I'd love that.
Absolutely. So the second character I'll talk about is I'm kind of going to go your way, not quite so interpretive, but Buddy Guy. His
Buddy fucking Guy.
So listen, this one is going to be simple. I've been a fan of Buddy Guy since the 7th grade. All right. I was like 12 years old. I think that's how old you are in 7th grade. I had just started playing guitar, and my aunt bought me a collection, a CD collection called Blues Guitar Kings or Blues Guitar Gods or something like that. I have it somewhere up in my attic. And track number 5 on the second disc was Buddy Guy. And I remember hearing this thing and thinking, all right, I've heard a lot of blues because I heard the whole first album, and here's the second one. And this thing is blowing away everything that was on that first album. And the first album had Eric Clapton, Mike Bloomfield, just B.B. King, just some of the most amazing blues players ever. And here comes Buddy Guy. And I became a Buddy Guy fan like that, just right away. So when the end of this movie comes and here's Old Man Sammy, and I'm looking at him, and this was one of the only things I said throughout the whole movie. I nudged my wife. I was like, is that Buddy Guy? And she's like, I don't fucking know what Buddy Guy looks like. And I'm like, that's fucking Buddy Guy. I know that's Buddy Guy. And sure enough, he starts talking, it gets up close on his face. And I'm like, fucking yes. Who else could play a guitar virtuoso who has the ability to channel all of our pain into a guitar better than Buddy Guy? I was absolutely floored when I saw that. And motherfucker can act.
Yeah.
All right. Because he's got some chops. When he actually starts, I'm like, okay, well, he's going to perform. That's a nice thing. Then they bring back Michael B. Jordan and Haley Steinfeld for a post-credit scene, and here he is acting with them.
Yeah.
And he's holding his own. Where the fuck has Buddy Guy been for the last couple of years? Yeah, okay, so he's been producing records. Big whoop. All right. Get the fuck to acting, buddy. I want to watch you some more.
You know, my favorite part about Buddy Guy showing up in this role at the end to play the aged Sammy. Buddy Guy is like 90 now. But my favorite part of them taking and yes, obviously his name is still Sammy, but taking a real live blues guitarist that if you know you know type guy and putting him in this role is it once again takes a trope and flips it. And we keep going back to that, but it's what Coogler does, and he does so amazingly. If you go and you look at the history of blues guitarists, and if you just skim the surface, then you're going to run across the story of Robert Johnson, right? And you're going to run across these stories of these poor black men who made a Crossroads Demons deal so that they could sing the blues. That is tale as old as time when it comes to the blues. And there's a decent, I cannot remember who wrote it. There was an article, a paper that I read one time about the idea that was actually created as part of this appropriation thing, right? Because how could these black people be so much better at something than us? Oh, they must be making a deal with the devil. And then it just became universal. But so for this is something that's just commonplace when it comes to blues guitarists. So by taking Buddy Guy, a real life blues guitarist virtuoso, and putting him in this role, you have now created the mythos of a blues guitarist who not only didn't make a deal with the devil, he beat the fucking devil.
Yeah.
He went toe to toe with the devil because he was already good at music. And then when presented with the chance, after seeing the devil live in the flesh and being told, look, this is what I told you. This is what this music would lead to. This is how it's always been. He still goes back and he does the damn thing. And it's the biggest middle finger that he could have possibly given to just this entire idea that to be good at something, it has to be evil, or you have to make a deal with evil to do it. He becomes his own legend. It makes the legend of Sammy as big as the legend of Buddy Guy, because no, he didn't make a deal. He fought the devil. He got his ass whooped, and he still came out on top. And that was my favorite part of Buddy Guy showing up in this at the end.
100%. 100%.
And so, look, we know we're skipping, obviously. We're not talking Smoke and Stack. Yes, Michael B. Jordan is amazing. Haley Stanfield is amazing. These are the people that are easy to talk about, and we could keep going, and we could keep this moving, and we could talk about all of them. Delroy Lindo is in this movie.
My God, is Delroy Lindo in this movie?
Delroy Lindo is in this movie, being maybe the most Delroy Lindo that we've seen in a long fucking time. Right? Incredible. There are so many names here that we could just sit and talk about, but we do have to keep moving. And there is something that is very, very important to talk about this movie. And so in a section that we're called Coogler Stays Twinning, let's talk about just the making of this movie, right? I mean, we've used the words beautiful and we've talked about the music, but I mean, what is it about this movie that just it just makes your brain tingle, Dave?
For me, the moment the movie started, I said, hang on a second, I got to look something up. And this movie was made with my favorite Kodak film. It was made with Kodak Vision 3 film. I was like, these colors, I know these fucking colors. And it's the same exact film that when we were talking about Guillermo del Toro's Pan's Labyrinth, it's the same colors, man. And it's that color palette. It's classic. It's absolutely classic. You see it and you recognize it. But the thing is that it never goes out of style. That's the thing with something classic, man. Right? It's like pizza and beer. It's
right?
Classic, right? How do you convince people to move? Hey, help me move. Give you some pizza and beer. Classic. I'm in, right? Never goes out of style. This movie, which may very well be the most modern interpretation of a vampire movie. And that's not because it's a recent one. It's because I think this is the most someone has advanced the vampire genre since, I don't know. I don't want to make some outlandish statement here, but maybe since Interview with the Vampire.
I was just about to say, at least since Interview.
Yeah, I can't think of another vampire movie that has pushed vampire lore into the modern time quite the way that this one has. And it looks modern. And yet there's something that ties it to all of the rest of cinema history, which is something that is a part of this, right? A big thematic element in this movie is the fact that there is all of this history that comes before. And all of that goes into what has yet to be. To film this thing on the same Kodak film stocks that have been used since the dawn of time, basically. To me, that was an amazing thing. It's also, these are really tricky lighting situations that they're being put in from like a DP point of view. This thing is just gorgeously shot. It's gorgeously lit. The cinematography is out of hand good. Those shots from the car as it's driving across the fields are some of the most beautiful shots I've ever seen in any movie. This is quite simply, I think, a top 10 horror movie all time. I know that I only saw this a couple of weeks ago, but I've been thinking about this movie since I saw it.
Yeah.
I can't get its look out of my mind. I can't get the sound out of my mind. The music, the use of music in this movie. Is it a musical? I think it kind of qualifies as a musical, right?
It has its moments, right?
There are musical numbers, and the music is a key component in this movie. There's as many musical numbers in this movie as in the fucking Lion King. All right. To me, that makes it a musical. All right. So you have all of these things coming together. I don't know that anyone but Coogler could have done this.
Yeah. And speaking of the music and Coogler doing this, 5th movie that he's done with Ludwig Göransson.
Mm-hmm.
And that dude just has a way with music. Like, he makes music that fills a room. It fills a scene. It absolutely takes over. And it becomes so vitally important. And you know, he's done Creeds, and he did both Black Panthers, and he's done those things, and the music was important there, right? Because it set tone. But for him to come out and compose music for this that not only set a tone, but helped tell the story, but to create music that felt like it was made in the 30s. Like, if I had not found out that Göransson did this, I would have just assumed that Ryan Coogler spent years just going to yard sales and buying old blues records and just finding the perfect stuff. It never, except for when it is supposed to feel out of time, it never feels out of time. And yet, like you said, it always feels so modern. That is such a fine line to toe. To create something that feels like it was made in the 30s, but also feels modern, was incredible. I could not get enough of the music in this movie. Like, the entire score, just everything about it is incredible. And for him to put all of that together, he was incredible in this. Like, just his addition to this movie is as important as any of as where it was shot, as how it was shot, and any of the roles that were given. It ended up being just equally important.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, that leaves us with only one thing left to do. And that's to rate the movie. So hopefully this isn't your first time listening or watching. If it is, welcome. Where you been? Thanks for stumbling in. If it's not, then we never rate a movie against any other movie. We've mentioned other vampire movies. We've mentioned Dracula. We've mentioned Interview with the Vampire. We've mentioned From Dusk Till Dawn. But we're not comparing this to any of those movies. No. A movie should be rated only against itself. So every movie gets a unique rating system. For this movie, Daniel and I went back and forth. There's a really good one that we're not going to use.
Two really good ones, honestly. But we're fine, upstanding men and allies.
Exactly. So, Daniel, out of a possible 5 time warp musical numbers, how many time warp musical numbers do you give Sinners?
There is no doubt in my mind that what Coogler and Michael B. Jordan and everyone involved in this movie created with Sinners is an absolute masterpiece. This is a movie that I see myself recommending to everybody. This is a movie that I see myself watching multiple times. This is one that I'm going to deep dive in. I'm going to learn more names, and I'm going to tear apart other bits of it. I didn't even get into just some of the ideals of Christianity that are approached in this movie as both the tool of oppression and empowerment. There's so much thematically, mythically, just everything about this movie is something, and there is not a single frame, a single note, or a single word that I would ever possibly consider changing. So yes, it just came out this year. Yes, I've only seen it twice here in the past 3 weeks, but yes, this is 6 out of 5 time warping musical numbers. It's perfect. It's better than perfect. It's perfect or perfect. This is an absolute masterclass.
Yeah, it's perfect plus. It's 6. It's 6 time warping musical numbers. And I wouldn't understand someone who would give it less.
Not for a second. Not for a second. Like this would be one I will fist fight you about. Like, I don't understand how anybody could think any differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, there you have it.
There it is.
I mean, it's perfect plus. It's, we're putting it in the Hall of Fame. We're hanging that jersey from the rafters. It is a 6 out of 5 unanimous time warping musical numbers. So if you've been listening and you've enjoyed this, thank you so much for all the support. I know, yes, things have been wonky here for let's call a spade here. 3 months, right? 2 to 3 months. Things have been weird. But we're back now. We're on track. Our plan is to stick with movies that are new to both of us because, like Dave said at the top, there is so much amazing stuff that has come to streaming. So we're going to, just stick with us. We're back. We're going to be doing some of that great stuff that people have been on our jock about doing since 2025 started. And we can't wait to not only tell you what we think about it, but hear you tell us what you think about what we think, so on and so forth. It's a snake eating its own tail. Make sure you head to shiverpod.com where you can find links to not only us here on StreamYard, but you can find links to all of our social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, all of those at ShiverPod. Make sure you leave us a comment, a review, help us break through the static. We're trying to come back. We've got good plans. Thank you guys for sticking with us.
Absolutely. So on behalf of all of us here at Shiver, fright you very much.